What's good, everybody? So today we're going to be taking a look at this video by Ryuku-sensei. This is why WuWa feels unoptimized. Bro's got his flying space balls in all of his videos. It's very distracting, I must say. Because Wuthering Waves is the reason why I upgraded my own PC. Not once, but twice, yes. I initially started with a Ryzen 3 700X and a nice 2070 Super, and I was getting insane CPU usage every time I was running WuWa. So what did I do? I replaced it with a 5700X. But because it was not the 3D version, WuWa was still stuttering. So what did I do instead? I just got a whole new PC. I got a lot of experience dealing with WuWa optimizations and performance. So let's get into it.
So a little while back, I made a video about how genuinely stunning Wuthering Waves looks and how even industry professionals were impressed with what Kuro was doing within Unreal Engine.
Very true. It's a very impressive game. As you guys know, I think Wuthering Waves is an incredibly beautiful game. And I'm fortunate enough right now that I have a pretty good damn PC with a very, very, very strong CPU. Apparently like one of the second strongest you can get on the market in terms of this kind of stuff. And I'm able to play with my settings kind of wild, okay? My quality, I'm playing at 4040p. Everything's on high, basically. We've got everything. We've even got medium ray tracing on. How wild. We've even got medium ray tracing on. And as you know, the Academy is probably the laggiest part of WuWa, but I am able to run through without any problems, along with streaming and recording and having my model up and everything. And it works like a charm right now.
Engine, the lighting, the environments, the character
very,
effects,
very good.
And from the looks of things, the response was great. You guys loved that video too. But as I was reading through the comments alongside all the hype, every now and then I'd see something like, looks incredible, can't say the same about the optimization. Or,
yep,
it's all good and cool, but StarTouch Academy is a nightmare in terms of optimization. And look, those comments...
Yeah, that person's saying right there, RTX 3090, AMD Ryzen 9 5900X. The problem is not the graphics card. A lot of people think, who aren't in the know when it comes to gaming or performance or whatever it is, they think, oh, if I can't load it up, it's my graphics card that's the issue. But with WuWa, that's not the case. Like, Wuthering Waves have such a high CPU utilization, it's crazy. And all of these like Ryzen CPUs without the 3D on the end, without the extra 3D cache, suffer massively. So you got a lot of people like actually legitimately like upgrading their GPUs even though they don't need to. It's kind of crazy.
StarTouch Academy is a nightmare in terms of optimization. And look, those comments are...
because a graphics card is easier to install than a new CPU for a lot of people.
Completely fair. But what I also noticed in those threads was either Kuro is lazy and doesn't care about optimization, or just upgrade your PC. So I got curious and went digging into the technical side of this. And here's the thing. According to this breakdown I found on github.io, both of those are wrong. It was a very deep technical analysis, and so I'm going to try to translate the important parts into plain English.
Good old Unreal Engine.
Can all actually understand what's going on. So in this video, we're going to break down what's actually causing the stutter in Wuthering Waves, why it's not as simple as just optimize it, and what Kuro is actually doing about it. So with that being said, my name is Ryuku-sensei, and this is what's going on with Wuthering Waves optimization. First, the most important thing. When people say WuWa runs badly, they're actually talking about at least two completely different problems that often get lumped together. The first problem is what we'll call the city stutter. That constant annoying micro jitter you get where just by walking around StarTouch Academy or Septimont, for example, your FPS won't stay stable and the frame pacing feels
still happens.
off.
It still happens in Septimont. There was a lag too, but it's because of like two of similar reasons. Like there was a lot of density of characters and players and NPCs, right? There's a lot of things to be rendered in densely. That's the issue that WuWa has the most, is things where it's densely packed. It happened in both.
Here's the weird part. Your GPU is barely even sweating. You can have an RTX 40...
Yep. It's not the GPU that's the problem.
And still get this problem. More on why that is in a second. And the second problem is what we'll call the exit freeze. That hard 0 FPS drop you get.
I never really had this. I never had this problem.
And the game just...
Even on my 3700X, I didn't have this problem.
Stops for 1 or 2 seconds. then it's totally fine. Longtime players from version 1.0 will remember when this was particularly brutal.
1.0 was kind of bad for it, though.
patches, but it hasn't gone away completely. These two problems look the same because they both happen near cities, but they have completely different causes and they need to be addressed in completely different ways. There's also a third problem which is specific to mobile, which is a graphical lag when lots of visual effects are on screen, but the main PC problems are these two, and understanding them changes everything. So why does your expensive GPU sit around doing nothing while the game stutters?
Because the CPU can't give it the information that it needs because it's being utilized in a very weird way. Let me guess. I wonder. I wonder.
This is the
It ain't getting the information it needs quick enough.
part that surprises most people. Unreal Engine 4, the engine that Wuthering Waves runs on, processes all game logic through a single thread called the game thread. Think about what that means. Every NPC deciding where to walk, every building with an interactive door, every particle effect, every quest trigger, every collision check, all of it has to get processed in sequence on one single CPU core before the GPU is even allowed to start drawing the frame.
So that means you'll have a CPU that's like having one of its cores like utilized 100% and all the others aren't. And that's the exact issue that we saw that I had before I upgraded my CPU, right? Do you remember when like we looked it up and we saw it was like one core was like working overtime and the others were like fucking doing nothing? Yeah, it was this. We had this, and on my other CPU, you'd see like some of these be 100% and others kind of doing nothing. It was kind of something.
This article gives a great analogy that really helped me visualize the problem. So imagine this: a highway with 8 lanes, but there's only one toll booth. All the traffic has to funnel through that one point before it can move forward. It doesn't matter how many
Bro just described a bottleneck in real time.
lanes you have. It doesn't matter if the highway itself is a Formula 1 track, for example. Everything waits on that one booth. In Wuthering Waves, the game thread is that toll booth. StarTouch Academy has dozens, maybe even hundreds of NPCs and tons of interactive buildings, ambient systems, and quest logic.
That's why the NPCs pop in and out. They intentionally did that. So they don't have to render as many things as once.
Is queuing up through that one thread, and it starts to clog up in a sense. And when it's full, your GPU is just sitting there, idle, waiting for instructions that are stuck in line. A technical benchmark found that on a high-end system, like we're talking about an i7 with an RTX 5070 in there, the game was hitting nearly 100% load on one CPU core, while the overall CPU was only around 40 or 45% busy, and the GPU was averaging somewhere around 55% utilization. The hardware has capacity. It can do a lot more, but the bottleneck is the design. And here's the part that really blows people's minds. More CPU cores won't help. Having a 16-core processor doesn't move the needle.
No. What does move the needle, though, is using like a 5700X 3D or a 9800X 3D. Like the 3D at the end of a lot of these CPUs is better because they intentionally are built because a lot of these games in Unreal need more of that cache. They need more of that memory. It's insane.
On this specific problem in the slightest. The work that causes the stutter, all that NPC and scripting logic, is hard-coded to one thread. The other 15 cores can't touch it. What does help a little is a CPU with a large L3 cache, like AMD's X3D processor, and I'll explain why in a moment. So underneath the single thread
WAMD, honestly, probably one of the best like technologies. I would say technologies, but like one of the best like upgrades to like a CPU you can get.
There's actually a second issue making it worse.
WAMD.
It has to do with how data is stored in memory. Unreal Engine 4 uses what's called...
Because like it's so interesting because like with those 3D CPUs, they perform so much better in games, but they perform kind of equally in other tasks. It really is for gaming. It literally is has a very specific function because you do it with other like rendering processes, normal day-to-day tasks. It performs kind of the same.
Object-oriented programming. Every single object in the game, every NPC, every brush, every building facade, everything is its own individual thing sitting in its own random spot in your RAM. When the game needs to update 10,000 of these objects every frame, the CPU has to go and hunt each one of those individually all over your memory. A good way to picture this is to imagine a librarian who needs to look up 10,000 books, but the books were shelved wherever they happened to fit when they arrived, so they're not put away in any particular order. So the librarian has to walk across the entire library up and down for every single book, and that back and forth walking time adds up massively, even if reading the book itself is quite fast.
This seems like a problem some kind of AI could solve. This feels like the type of thing that a lot of like this is the type of problem that a lot of like NVIDIA GPUs try and solve, but we need that kind of like tech in like CPUs. Do you know what I mean? This kind of feels like the kind of thing NVIDIA would talk about like a lot, and like how they manage to generate cards that are able to do like path tracing or ray tracing and stuff like that. Like it's
walking translates to CPU slowdowns called cache misses, when the CPU has to fetch data from slow main memory instead of fast nearby cache. And these checks happen thousands of times per frame in a dense city. This is why AMD's X3D CPUs, which have a massive amount of extra L3 cache, help a lot more with Wuthering Waves specifically.
Yes, sir!
More cache basically means like the librarian has a bigger desk to keep books nearby. She still has to make trips, but far fewer of them. It doesn't get rid of the problem entirely, but it can significantly reduce the worst of it. Some other games like Arknight's Enfield are built on an architecture called DoD or ECS, where all the data for similar objects is stored together in a neat row, basically like having all the books on one topic shelved right next to each other.
This feels like a bit of a problem for WuWa. Like, how are they going to change this? That's what I want to know. How do they fix this problem? Like, how are they going to fix this? Because this feels like a very core structural problem.
The CPU obviously loves this. It makes their job a lot more easier, and that's part of why those games handle lots of characters and effects more easily. But WuWa's engine simply wasn't built that way.
Yeah, an engine level problem. We could blame Unreal Engine.
Now, for the second problem, the hard freeze when leaving a city, this one has a different villain, a different Threnodian, if you will.
Oh, God.
Something called V8, kind of like Aleph 1, but different. Wuthering Waves has a scripting layer running underneath the gameplay, built on a system called Puertis, which uses V8.
I have no idea about any of this. I'm in territory I know nothing about now.
The same JavaScript engine that powers Google Chrome. This has been confirmed by game log files and binary analysis. The reason it exists is developer convenience. The team can code and update the game quickly without recompiling the whole game engine every time like they would need to do so in C++. The problem with V8 is what's called its garbage collector.
Oh, what?
While you're inside the city, the game is constantly creating small chunks of data, NPC behaviors, interactions, quest triggers, stuff like that. And over time, these things...
Oh, is that, oh, what do we call it? Oh, it's just left my brain. Like memory leaking? It's almost like memory leaking, cleaning resources basically. Is it just like piling up like information it doesn't need to keep? This is memory yeah, it's just piling up information that it doesn't need anymore. And because I had this thing in WuWa on my old PC whereby I would tab out of the game for like 10 minutes and tab back in, and the whole thing would run like shit. Like, I shit you not, like 5 frames a second, and it wouldn't fix itself unless I restarted the game. It was crazy.
Things pile up, and when you leave the city, V8 decides it's time to clean house. And here's the painful part. V8 does its big spring clean in what's called a stop the world pause. Everything freezes while it tidies up. So for anywhere from half a second to 2 full seconds, your game is at 0 FPS. Then it's completely fine. That's pattern 2, and that's the exit freeze. The version 3.1 patch actually improved this by fixing the asset streaming side of the problem. The game now unloads city data faster when you leave, but the V8 garbage collection part is still there. Fixing it completely would need...
I don't think that's too much of a detrimental issue. I don't think like people are going to notice it too much. I think the stuttering is worse.
A much bigger change. So What's Kuro doing? Actually, something pretty significant. They're just not out there bragging about it because it's technical infrastructure stuff that's invisible to players and it doesn't really sound as exciting as it actually is. What they're doing is they're migrating their scripting layer from TypeScript, which uses V8, to C#, which doesn't. C# uses a completely different garbage collector that works incrementally, spreading its cleanup work across multiple frames piece by piece instead of doing one big freeze. What this means is that even the worst case pauses go from potentially several hundred milliseconds down to single digits. Evidence of Kuro making this switch can be found in the game's own data files since back in version 2.8 when these new C# config entries started appearing. By version 3.1, more and more systems had been moved over, but it's an ongoing process that will take a few more patches to fully complete. They can't just flip a switch and move everything over at once on a live service game. And that's the key context. They're doing all of this while maintaining a 6-week content release schedule. It's kind of like they're
It's like it's one of those things, isn't it? They have to do a lot of optimizations and change things, but they're also constantly making new content, right? It's really hard. It's like chasing after a car. It's you could sprint and speed up to it, but the car's still moving. You're never gonna catch up to it, or it'll take a long time, right? So I could see it's gonna be really difficult, like to constantly make new things, new resources, new areas, new patches, new characters, new everything, and at the same time changing and swapping over how you code things. That must be annoying and a process that will have to be done incrementally over time. Like
building and replacing the engine of a car while it's driving.
Me and Ryuku have similar wavelengths, man. What can I say? But for me, it's like running after a car that's already moving. You're not going to catch up to it.
Character, area, and every event that they release on the new C# path carries less performance risk than it would have on the old V8 path, and that value compounds over time. What this change does not fix, however, is the game thread single core ceiling. That lone toll booth is still out there on the CPU data highway because it is a structural limitation of Unreal Engine 4 that, unfortunately, no patch can ever fully solve.
Unreal! You would think that they would solve that problem. That seems like a pretty big deal, no? Unless Unreal and Epic are in cahoots with like CPU manufacturers to intentionally make it this way, like, who knows? It's nothing impossible for Solon. Like, what can we do?
Now, let's talk about the comparisons that everyone makes. Why does Genshin feel smoother? Genshin runs on Unity, which has an architecture that's naturally closer to that cache-friendly DoD approach we talked about earlier. And Hoiverse had over a decade of experience building and customizing Unity before Genshin even launched.
They took Unity and made their own like engine on top of it, right? They use a modified version, whereas WuWa just directly uses Unreal, if I'm not mistaken.
Experience from their other title, Honkai Impact 3rd. This means that they had an enormous head start, knowing exactly how to push that engine to its limits. Plus, it's worth noting that Genshin has a significantly lower graphical ceiling.
WuWa customized the UE4 a ton as well? Okay. But I guess it's just like a lot harder to do. WuWa backported the Lunite thing from Unreal 5 to Unreal 4. Oh, really?
Wuthering Waves. It's a different game with different constraints. Now, what about Hogwarts Legacy? This is the comparison that should really settle the Kuro is lazy argument. Hogwarts Legacy was
that had so much stuttering when I played it first time too, actually, now I think about it.
Made by Avalanche Software with a Warner Brothers budget. It runs on Unreal Engine 4.27 and at launch it had almost identical stutter complaints. It was CPU bound in dense areas like Hogsmeade. GPU is underutilized and throwing more CPU cores doesn't help. Community members diagnosed the exact same single thread problem independently. Hogwarts Legacy is an offline linear game without the additional complications of being a live service game with mobile support or a 6-week content schedule. And it still had the same problem because it's the same engine. The issue isn't Kuro's quality of work. It's that no open world game on Unreal Engine 4 has solved this. Not one. And here's what I think is the most honest takeaway from all of this. Wuthering Waves is trying to do something genuinely ambitious. Open world, high-end visuals, densely populated cities, complex combat VFX, cross-platform all the way from...
I'm saying it. Wuthering Waves is now Tencent's test project. How high a quality can we make of a game and pack it into like mobile? You know, I really think WuWa has now become a technical test. It really is, because they are developing and making a lot of like they are really trying. They are really trying, and I am going to give the devs credit because they do deserve it, because they are trying as hard as they fucking can.
Budget phones to high-end PCs on a 6-week live service release schedule, and all on an engine not purpose-built for this combination. No other gacha game on the market right now is doing all of these things simultaneously on this engine at this level. Cyberpunk 2077 and Red Dead Redemption 2 run on custom engines that studios spent decades building specifically for open world performance, so the comparison is a little unfair. It's like asking why a production car doesn't keep up with a Formula 1 car. They're built for different things with different resources over a completely different timescale. Kuro continues to work on this. Performance patches appear in nearly every major update.
Bro, I swear, like that's what they're dumping a lot of their money into, is performance
The migration
and
from
optimizations.
TypeScript to C# is real and ongoing. The version 3.1 improvements made a measurable real-world difference for the exit freeze, and these are incremental
I remember the update for 3.1 did actually change a lot.
steps, not magic fixes, but they're real nonetheless. So next time you see someone in the comments saying something like, just optimize the game, it's not that hard, you can point them to this video. And next time you see someone say it's a skill issue, just upgrade your PC, also point them to this video too. Because
technically they're not wrong. Like, technically speaking though, they're saying like the game does run better if you have a bigger L3 cache CPU, technically. So they're not entirely wrong if they say, hey, if you want it to work, then you could get this and it will run better, but that's not Kuro's fault. They're not technically wrong.
upgrading your GPU won't help a CPU-bound bottleneck. And I'll be clear, I've been guilty of this as well, of just saying, why can't Kuro just optimize this? So reading this article was really enlightening for me. Because the honest answer is that this is an engine
This is sponsored by AMD.
architecture problem compounded by the realities of live service game development and a lack of documentation compared to other engines out there. Kuro is making real progress. It's just slow because the right fixes are hard and they're doing it all without stopping the game. I'll leave a link to the GitHub article in the video description, and I'll be fully clear, I'm not sure if everything is 100% correct. There was a lot of technical stuff that went way over my head, but I did my best to read through and understand it.
This was a pretty good breakdown
in this field, and if there was anything off with the information in this video, please let me know down in the comment section below. Not only for me to learn more, but for all of us to understand.
It's a pretty good simple summary that's communicated well to
don't forget to
an
like
audience.
and subscribe because it greatly supports the channel. Also, let me know down in the comments, do you have any lag or stutters when you play Wuthering Waves? And if so, where is it like the worst for you? And don't forget to be kind and respectful, guys. It's in short supply. But anyway, yeah. So until next time, I will see you in the next video. Peace.
Good video. I think it summarizes a lot of things well. Intel isn't doing processors for gaming PC, now it's all for AI. Intel is releasing a new CPU that kind of rivals AMD ones, and it's cheaper. But I think they upped the price recently. Small follow-up on it. A message traded between the writer and another guy. Cabinetz with Riku, his video is on this totally off the mark. Doing a simple client log will tell you everything you need to know. Okay, this kind of tweet is fucking stupid because you're not actually explaining anything. His video is totally off the mark. Okay, why? What part? Doing a simple client log read will tell you everything you need to know, and then it's just like words. No one's gonna fucking understand this. The second image explains it? Bro, what do you mean the second image explains it? Multiple game thread groups which are allotted into multiple task graph groups as shown from the client log details. This is for mobile. It's not really a game thread issue, more of a frustum calling, occlusion, distance, pre-computed visibility, etc. and texture streaming. On a Samsung S25 with 35-watt cooler. I feel like we're talking about two different things, maybe? I feel this person, if they want to be helpful, they should probably make a video or something and talk about the mobile side of things, or like how this relates to like PC players. Kind of yes, kind of no. I feel like, I'll be real, rather than be condescending, I think it's better to like educate people and be reasonable. Saying stuff like his video is totally off the mark just comes across like we're trying to be a smart aleck rather than like add to a conversation. How about that? Can we all just blame Epic Games and move on with our life? Isn't that it? Can we all just blame Epic Games? Yeah, always. Yeah, fuck Epic Games. It's your fault. TLDR, blame Epic. Yeah, they didn't get enough V-Bucks, man. They didn't get enough V-Bucks. Like, even right now with my beefy ass PC, look at all the pop-in I'm getting, bro. Bro, literally. Okay, now it's smoothing, but bro, see? Look. Like, and I guess that's the result of them trying to optimize it better. I have already made a video in the past about Wuthering Waves running on mobile and how performance is. So go check it out. Go check out Ryuku. Go subscribe, all the good stuff. I appreciate y'all. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.